Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, I'm pleased to have a Staples wrecker who is not only a football player, but also a lacrosse player. Just won a lacrosse championship against Darien, the first one in the school's history, a very storied history in that. Tyler Clark, great to be able to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously, because you playing two sports at a very high profile school as Staples is. And, hopefully we can get into both of those sports throughout this episode. Before we get into that, I do want to ask you, being a multi athletic player as you are, playing two sports, is, I feel like, becoming more common looking at the younger athletes as they go through the ranks. Were you always like that growing up?
Yeah, I think I've played like every single sport. I played basketball, soccer, baseball, lacrosse, football. I've played literally everything. So I do think it makes you a lot better as an athlete, and it gives you a lot better understanding of just how to be a competitor.
Was there a you know was there a particular sport that you kind of started to gravitate towards first? Was it lacrosse, or was it football, or was it neither?
I think, well, there was a time where it was just whatever season I was in, it was the best. And then I think, later in my middle school career, I guess, I knew that I wanted to play college lacrosse, probably like seventh grade. And I always loved playing football. And then I didn't end up playing in eighth grade and then started again freshman year. Um, and I just never looked back.
Now, when did you start playing lacrosse?
Well, my family, so my dad actually just finished his last year of running the, Westport lacrosse program. So like I've always been playing lacrosse. I played like on my first organized team in first grade. But I've had a stick in my hand since I don't even know 3 years, whenever I could walk.
See, no, that's when I was growing up, and I'm only 29, so I'm not that old. But I
Mhm.
remember when I was your age, maybe a little bit younger, lacrosse was just starting out, at least in Connecticut. I don't know about the game itself. And I remember talking with one of my buddies who was a soccer player, but also a lax player. And I remember him telling me at a young age, like, this sport is really competitive. It's fun. I just was like, it doesn't look fun. I mean, you have a stick and it just doesn't look like it. But now, over the course of as the game has grown, and I've even called it, it's a very interesting game. And I could see why you were attracted to it at such a young age.
Yeah, I think it's I mean this is said a lot, but I think it's a mix of like literally everything. You have the physicality of football. You need to be athletic, like you need to be in soccer and basketball. And I think the spacing of it is also a lot like basketball. Even on our lacrosse team, like we watched the I think it was 2008 Spurs offense this year to you know, just learn ball movement because they move the ball really well. So yeah.
And like you said too, it's a mix of multiple sports, the physicality of football. I would even say, and you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but soccer, in terms of making sure you get the proper passes, as my former coach would say, set pieces, making sure you're making not just passes just to pass, but making intellectual passes that have a purpose. Do you know what I
100,
mean?
yeah, 100%, 100%.
Now, as you were going through and getting older before you got to Staples, obviously lacrosse didn't affect the football side because it's different seasons, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you feel like in some ways that kind of helped where you weren't forced to have to pick? Like if you played soccer, football, lacrosse, then you'd have to pick. But then only playing football allowed you to kind of stay with the sport that you loved, football, but also lacrosse. Talk to me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I think, you know, playing in the fall, so, we're doing a lot of I'm doing a lot of preparation for football in the summer because I'm doing lacrosse in the spring, and then I prepare for lacrosse in the winter. So I think it really works out well where like I come out of football season, take a couple of days off, get right back into lacrosse, take a couple of days off, right back into football. It actually works really well.
Now, when you were going to, or when you were entering Staples, did you know about the programs both on the football side and the lacrosse side?
Well, for football, I think It was it was a different time. There was a new coach, Coach Barron's. It was his first year. And honestly, like I didn't really know what to expect. I was kind of scared. I was like, oh, am I gonna get hazed? Just being a freshman. And I came in, it was a rough first year for the varsity team, but I think it's like just being in the Staples football program. It's one of the most welcoming places, welcoming groups of people you'll ever be around. And then on the lacrosse side, Coach Kashansky, our head lacrosse coach, he came to a lot of our stuff. When I was in 8th grade, that was his first year as a coach. He came to a lot of our stuff and he always talked about, what was going on at the high school. And he made it, something like he made it sound like something he really wanted to be a part of. So I was definitely really excited to be a part of the program when he was running it because he does a lot of great things too.
Now, you talked about as far as when you first entered and maybe kind of having some nerves as far as maybe not knowing what to expect as a freshman. Now, your sophomore year, you missed because of COVID, or was that your freshman year?
Oh yeah, sophomore year.
Sophomore year, okay. So you were at least able to get on to the field a little bit and play some your freshman year for both sports.
Yeah. Well, I didn't play lacrosse freshman year. It cut off was March, so like I didn't really play a season for lacrosse, but I got a football season.
Okay, and I want to hit on that in just a moment, but we'll stay
Mhm.
with the football just for a second. Talk to me about kind of, was there any kind of eye-opening experiences as far as maybe expectation level at Staples? I know you and I talked about how it's been a little bit, it's been a little bit of time since Staples has been in the playoffs. Just talk to me about kind of your freshman year and how it went.
Yeah, so just growing up, I mean, I've always been going to I went to the state championship when the Staples team lost to Cheshire in like 2000. I don't know, remember the year, but I always grew up and they were always winning when I was really young. And then during my middle school years wasn't, as good. And then, I mean, it was always just my dream to win a state championship for Staples. And so coming in, new coach, new everything. I guess the president had to kind of be set of like what needed to be done to do that, and we still haven't done it, but we're working towards it. And I think just I think it's a little bit of a different experience for me just because it was a new program right when I got there, so I didn't really know what to expect.
Was there anything in particular that you felt like was a key cog to kind of your, I mean, now looking at it now with you being an incoming or soon to be senior, if you were to look back at your freshman year, is there anything that you still carry with you to this day that you learned or maybe witnessed, saw, or spoken to about at that point?
I think I learned a lot about what it meant to be on a team, and just, high school sports are a lot different than youth because you're there every day, you're in a locker room. And I think just, being on the freshman team, it's not like as serious, but you learn a lot of the things and the coaches teach you. They do a great job of teaching you what it means to be on a team and the sacrifice you need to, um, what you need to sacrifice to be on a team and have a great team.
Now, looking at the fact of you being also a lacrosse player as well, being able to play multiple sports, we talked about how it's becoming less and less unique and more of a common thing. Uh, the history, now we talked about Staples as far as it's been a while since they've been to a playoff. Um, the lacrosse team, not too familiar with that, so fill me in. Talk to me about that program and the success that they've had.
Yeah, so I think the program's been around for 40 years. I think they became, one of the competitors in the FCAC probably around like 2010. And then just growing up, like never won a championship. I don't think I ever saw the team go to a championship game. And then just coming in, my freshman year, we didn't have a season. Sophomore year, made it to FCAC championship this year, won the state championship. So yeah, I mean, there's not, it's definitely just really cool for me because I never saw this I never watched a championship game with Staples Lacrosse during my youth. And then now winning it was cool.
Would you say, and you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've always believed that for teams to win a championship, a lot of times you need to have some sort of success in high pressure moments. Otherwise, you've never experienced it. So you don't know how it is. And then, like I said, if you're not at that point, you can't really kind of figure out, okay, can I handle this? Can I not? But now it's since you saying, you won the FCX championship or at least got there. I think you said, right? You got there.
Yep.
So with you getting to that point, when, going into the past season, the one of which you just won the title, do you feel like that with the group that you had coming back and having the experience, like I said, in that pressure moments in the FCX championship and such, do you feel like that kind of helped in some way lead to what was a state title run this year?
Yeah, I definitely think that. I think we had a lot of guys who played last year, and we kind of just left the season like with a bad taste in our mouth of not winning the championship, not winning, not going out on a win. And I think that kind of drove a lot of our motivation. Like I think that this Stables lacrosse team this past year has had some of the hardest workers I've ever been around. And I think that was because of the loss in the championship game. And then when we got to the championship game, we were like very calm. The game, it was no different than any other game because we've already been in a situation like that.
And the run of which you guys got to the title, I mean, you had a close game against Ridgefield. I think it was right. I think it was a 1-goal win, correct?
Yeah, it was overtime.
It was an over, which is, and I think it was also at a university as well, a college
Yeah,
field,
Fairfield, yeah.
which is pretty cool. And then you play the championship at Sacred Heart U, and you and
Yeah.
I were going back and forth about the goals being scored and the music being played. Those two games in particular, the semi and the final. Just talk to me about kind of that, the adrenaline, the energy. I mean, to go through an overtime game like that had to be a little bit spent. But then you go to the championship, and it looked like you guys were not tired or exhausted or anything. Talk to me about that.
Um, yeah. So right after the semifinal game, so Fairfield Prep and Darien were playing right after us on that field, and the Fairfield Prep lacrosse coach gave our coach the game ball of the goal, or like the ball that was scored. And so right after the game, we all huddled up, talked, and at the end, our coach, Coach K, he showed us the ball and he said that um, the Fairfield Prep coach just gave this to me, and then he threw it back onto the field, and he said, "We don't want this one. It's back to work tomorrow. Like we want the state championship." And I think we all just, were like, "Yeah, let's go back to work tomorrow." Then won the state championship.
Would you say that that's now looking at the fact of you winning the title? To me, that screams like a signature moment because I feel like that kind of resonated with the rest of the team. Like, okay, our coach wants more. Like, not to say that if he said we're keeping this because this is another step, not saying that that's wrong because I know coaches that would do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But certain guys have a different approach. And it seems like your head coach had, no, we want the title ball. There's much more meaning to that in his eyes. And it seemed like in your guys' mentality, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, the mentality, the psyche. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think he does a great job of like, I mean, he says it almost after every interview and every game. He says, "We're happy, but we're not satisfied." And he never lets anyone get satisfied. It's always like, "Yeah, we had success yesterday, but what are we going to do today?"
And just talk to me about, man, winning the title. I mean, as the clock was winding down, 10 seconds, 9, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What was your first thought?
I could not even tell you. I just literally just chucked my helmet in the air. I wasn't thinking anything. I just hugged a couple people and I was like, "Oh my God, wow. Like I've really wanted this forever." And we did it. And it was just a great feeling.
I hope the helmets didn't get ruined because they're really nice.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have
No.
to admit, I've seen some pictures. They look, sometimes I'm like, wait, are those the helmets for lacrosse or football? Because they both look pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, no, they're nice for sure.
So, couple days after, I know it's, you're almost done with school as far as with your junior year is concerned. I know you're
Mhm.
telling me you have one more project and you're done. Have you been able to kind of like come back to earth a little bit? And I mean that in a good way, as far as because when you win a title, you're as high and you're excited. I mean, and plus you're coming back. So you and your the rest of your team can try to two-peat, can try to get back there again. Have you been able to kind of come back a little bit, or are you still up there?
Yeah, I think I was flying high for probably a couple days. I think just having like a big math and chemistry final during the week right after probably brought me down a little bit. But I think now I'm kind of just focused on the football season and then obviously getting back to where we were this year. for lacrosse next year. I don't think we're flying too high still.
Is it hard though? And I know again, it's hard to ask this because first title for you as far as at the high school level with lacrosse, so it's hard to really, I guess, kind of ask this question. But just as far as trying to make it a little bit of different here, um, to then go from a title to then going right to football, is it hard to kind of think about because it's a memory you're never going to forget? Um, is there any way that maybe you could use that season from lacrosse into the football season and see if it can be replicated in any sort of way?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that go into winning a championship, and I think a couple of the things we did this year were just like, we did it in football last year too, but we made our identity on the lacrosse team, our toughness, and just out toughing teams. I think that's something where we're gonna drag over to football, and then also just do everything the right way. Like today, our dumbbell rack in our weight room for football was messy, and we made sure it was clean today because you have to do the small things, and if you can't do the small things, how can you be expected on Friday night to do your job or don't get beat deep?
That sounds like, I don't know if you're a baseball guy, but that sounds like something that Buck Showalter would say, who's now the manager for the Mets. He's
Yeah,
very fine tuned, right to the details. The smallest thing, like those are the things that matter. If you do the small things well, then the big things are actually not as big of a deal. You know what I mean?
yeah, I agree. Hmm.
So with you having, you're basically going to be busy during the summer. You've got lacrosse, you've got football. You're going to be going left and right. You'll probably be carrying your pads with you from football, put them
Yeah.
in the car, switch them over to then your lacrosse stuff. Uh, are you ready for the summer? It's going to be busy.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be busy. I had a lacrosse tournament this past weekend. I'm going to Maryland this weekend for another one. And then literally the next day I'm going over waking up early, going to Yale for football camp. So I'm just gonna have to, I guess, keep my body, like running, sort of, focus a lot on recovery and eating, and hopefully I'll be fine.
Eat a lot of fruit and have a banana every day
Yeah,
and a gallon of water. Not
yeah,
too much, because then you get too cramped. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So before I let you go, Tyler, and I appreciate you coming on here. Uh, Now you're going to college for lacrosse. You're going to Army, part of the Patriot League. And for people who may not know, that's Division One. Just for anyone out there who may not know, um, Army had a pretty good season last year, from my that I could remember. I know they lost to, I think it was Boston College, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think BU in
Oh,
the Patriot League championship.
okay.
Senior year.
So, uh, were you keeping track of them throughout the season? I mean, when did you commit to Army?
I committed in December, a week before Christmas.
Mhm.
And yeah, no, I definitely was, keeping track of what they were doing. I went to a game this year. I'm super excited to be going there. So, I was I had a good time just, watching what they were doing and just looking forward to doing it.
Do you know what you're going to major in?
No, I don't know yet. Yeah.
Have you thought about maybe any potential opportunities, what you could potentially major in, or is just kind of, you know what, I'll wait until it gets to that point?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know. I kind of want to just wait and see what I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think one thing that interests me is the law. They have like a law major there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that would interest me. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I haven't put too much thought into it. It's a long way away, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to make a decision too early and then regret it.
No, that's smart. I mean, like you said, you have your entire senior year. You've got obviously football and lacrosse seasons, to be able to do. And as you said, one goal was checked off, championship for lacrosse. Now it's like you were telling me before, not just make it to the playoffs, but get to the championship, get to the title, and do more for football.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, before I let you go, Tyler, again, and I apologize, I just have one more question for you.
Mhm.
Talk to me about kind of these, the upcoming season for Staples. I mean, anybody, uh, what should I be expecting if I am calling a championship game and Staples is there? What kind of team should I expect? What players should I be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I think we're going to be a lot bigger this year. I think our line's going to be very big. I think our skill players are going to be legit. I think we had a lot of great athletes, a lot of guys who play lacrosse and also play rugby, because we have a great rugby team at Staples too. And we just have a lot of great athletes. I think our receiving group is very deep. Um, another one of the captains, James Hillhouse, has been working really hard this offseason. I think he's going to make a big impact this year. I think, we don't have too many returners, but I think we got a lot of great athletes. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Tyler, I appreciate you coming on here. It was a lot of fun to be able to talk with you. Best of luck this summer. Stay healthy, stay well, and hopefully I can get you back on before the season to talk more about Staples and to kind of give a preview about what's coming, because it looks like something special could be brewing at Staples.
100%. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Town. I'm on a journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.